Hello, friends. It's Miss Ashley. I haven't been live on this page forever, it feels like. But we're going to talk blending techniques tonight, okay? So, I've been doing lots of these paint parties on the weekends. We've had quite a few since last October. We've been doing paint parties on Saturdays. So if you have not yet joined us for a Saturday paint party, what in the world? Then feel free to sign up. Go to craveartclub.com and you can check out what paint parties we have coming up. We have the one right above my head, this fun little succulent one. And then we have a Mother's Day one, which will be the Saturday before Mother's Day. And we have another one, which is the Fiji Island one that is coming up the weekend after Mother's Day. I think it's the 15th. And that one is a fundraiser. So the more of you that want to come join and help out to get clean water for people in the world and help out people in need, then please join us for that party. It's going to be fun. It's all online, all virtual, super like low key and fun, and just a nice time to kind of chill out. Now, I'm over here trying to find my darn video right now on Facebook, but it doesn't like me, y'all. It said I was live, but now it's not saying I'm live. I'm just going to redo. So, hey, guys, there's like a number of you on already. How are you guys doing? Let me know in the comments, and when I find the video, because you all have, then I'll actually be able to talk to you in the comments. But, oh, there we are. Okay, fantastic. Okay. Oh, no, and now it's double talking. Stop talking me. Okay. That's better. All right, friends. So let us know where you're watching from, how you're doing, how your week has started. Ours has started well, actually, so that's nice. But we are going to do some blending techniques with the canvas and the acrylic, and just to kind of show a way to blend colors and make it easy and not so scary. We do a lot of landscapes. We also do paintings like these where I can give you a template inside our groups, because we do our paint parties in private groups. And I'll give you a template and you can draw it out on the canvas. I have a video to show you exactly how to transfer it onto your canvas or in your mixed media pad, paper, wood, whatever you're going to paint on. And then, then we paint. Sometimes templates, sometimes not. This one is going to not be a template. This is just some blending techniques, kind of show you how to do it. And some things that I am finding that people have trouble with so that you can practice. And remember, give yourself lots of grace, okay? You don't have to be Picasso to start out. You don't ever have to be Picasso in your life, right? Like, you don't have to sell your paintings. It's just for fun. So give yourself grace to completely fail and also to hopefully succeed at some point. But it's a process. And the more you do it, the better you get and the better it all goes, okay? So let's go down to the tabletop, if I can remember how. I did it. Okay, cool. I moved the brush. The husband said the brush has to stay there or it won't focus, and I didn't remember that. Okay, so we have the brush. Oh, good. Peggy, right, you're here. You said mine started at the dentist. That's terrible. I am sorry your day started at the dentist. And Graham says, hi from me. Oh gosh, blending practice. This is because she requested it, you guys. So I'm here. You can thank my mother-in-law, and she requested some blending. So I said, let's just go live and do it. So you could use a 1.5 inch brush or a 1 inch brush. This is just a flat brush. Now, there's all these fancy brushes that you can do that do blending and do fun things. But we're going to just start with the basics, because most people can get the basics or have the basics. This is a flat wash brush. Pretty standard in any like pack of brushes, or you can buy individual, okay? I do get my brush wet with water. So I've got my cup of water and I just dip it in and I wipe off one side. So I've got a good amount of water on my brush. I'm also using some Blick acrylic, or you can use folk art or deco art. I've got some folk art here too. All the paints will kind of work differently. Some are thicker, some are thinner. We're going to kind of do like an ocean kind of color. So I've got a phthalo blue. Is this phthalo blue? Yeah, I've got a phthalo blue, a phthalo green, and white. So those are our colors we're going to try to blend today. So my canvas, I'm going to do what not to do and what to do. Okay, so right here, my canvas, I have a lot of water on my brush, which is good. But if I'm painting, and I like to go side to side all the way. right here, right away, I can tell you, I don't have enough paint on my brush because it's too thin and I can see my canvas through it, okay? So that's like sign number one that something's wrong, is I can see it. Now I just need to add more paint. Another thing I see people do is they do this, which, listen, if you are an artist or you paint or you just have fun with it, whatever you consider yourself, if you like this look where it's short and streaky, then by all means, do it. This is for someone who might not like that look and they want a more smooth blended transition, okay? So there's really no wrong way to do things if you like what's happening. Now, if you don't like it, then we gotta figure out new solutions, right? So that's where this comes in, okay? So when you can see the canvas like this, I don't have enough paint on my brush. Also, much of the time, I don't have enough water on my brush, like nothing's moving. And my paint here is very transparent, so I can build up layer and layer and layer, and that's gonna get it, you know, a lot darker, right? But what I like to do is grab a touch of white and more water on my brush. I literally just dip this brush like this. I put a puddle of white here, and then I dip my brush in the water. I didn't wash it, just dipped it and wiped off the back side, okay? So my back side's pretty clean. This side I have paint about 1/2 to 3/4 of the way up the brush. I can grab a little bit of white and a little bit of blue on my brush. So see how much I've got on there? Okay, now I'll have enough paint to get through all the way down like this, and you can see how those colors are blending. So you have to have enough water and enough paint. Now, I like to use my palette more as the girls in the, hi, Mom's on here too. The girls in the chat are over here planning dog park meetups. I love it. I like to blend my paint on the canvas so that I get a better variety in my paint, right? I don't mix my paint over here. Sometimes I do when I need a solid color for something, but I much prefer to get it on the canvas. Now, see right here, I have a brush stroke. Okay, that bothers me when I'm trying to get a smooth look. If I wiped off my brush a little bit, if I just dip in the water and wipe off the back side of my brush, it's just wet now. I could go from one side to the other and it'll get rid of that, okay? So the key is going from left to right, all the way across. Now, in our paint parties, I always talk, I got a frog in my throat, I always talk about the paint going all the way around and wrapping around your canvas. So as soon as I can, I like to get that on there. And then I always kind of come back all the way side to side across the canvas. Okay? Now, when you're trying to add some sort, like if this is an ocean, let me get some green, okay? We'll get some phthalo green, we'll grab some white, kind of seeing what that color is gonna do over here. I like that, it's very oceany. Now, if I wanna blend this part down here in, okay, here we go. I got a booger in here. You don't want boogers in your paint. You got to pick your boogers. Sorry. All right, there we go. So now I've got the colors here, and I go all the way across. Now, right now, those colors are not blending much. Now notice, I did kind of mush it a little bit over here, but not completely, okay? So if I'm going around, and I want these blue greens to blend up here. This is still wet. The key is to do the blending when it's still wet. And I'm holding my brush vertical, right? And when I lay it down, I kind of bend it off onto like a 45-degree angle, okay? And we're just going side to side. Now, this is wet, this is wet, this is wet. I still want a wet brush. It has to be pretty wet. You don't want to be dripping, right? But the wet, you can always just have a wet brush and go over something and see if it blends it together. Just water on there, right? I don't have to wash the brush. Now I'm dipping again to get a dip of water. I'm gonna grab a little bit more of that green and white mixture that I've got going on here, and I'm gonna now move up into my layers of blues and greens. So I brought the blues down, and now I've got the greens and whites that are gonna come up, okay? I brought them lower than I probably wanted, just so that I can start making this transition. And see how I'm going all the way side to side? I'm not pressing very hard on the canvas. I'm really just gliding it across. My bristles bend. Let me see if I can do this. Maybe I could do it like this. Does this help if you see how my bristles bend? So they'll just kind of dust across. It's like a little mop, okay? All right, that's kind of why it's like a mopping brush. Now let's say I've got, that's pretty good. I don't like right there, let's just say. I'm gonna just kind of wipe off my brush so I don't have any excess paint. I'm gonna get it wet with water. I'm gonna wipe off just the back side, and I'm gonna go over right where that seam is. I'm gonna go a little above and a little below. And now it blended all together. Now if I want this area to blend right there, will I put the water cup in the frame? Absolutely, sure. My big head's in the way. Okay, there we go. Water cup's in the frame, okay? So dip. I know this is the side I'm gonna paint with, so I flip it to the back and wipe off the back side. And then I'm gonna use this water side. I want this to blend now. I'm gonna go just right over it. Okay, can we see how that kind of worked? Now I'm getting a lot of water on here, so I might end up taking off some paint, but I can just go with that water. And the paint does have to be wet for this to work, right? Now, if I want to add in some sort of like highlights on my ocean, and if you guys have any questions or you want me to try something, just put it in the comments on the side. Here's what happens a lot. I'm gonna let this dry a little bit. I'm gonna show you what happens a lot. People, one, will hold their brush this direction instead of this direction. See the difference? If I'm going this direction, I can get a bigger streak. If I'm going this way, I get these skinny little lines, and then also lack of paint. So if I'm going this way, I'm gonna get all these lines, which, y'all, this is a different sort of a technique, and that's fine if you want this technique, like I've said. And I use my brush this way for something else in the ocean. But for trying to just get the background and a base and to blend, I would rather hold my brush sideways. And now I know some people just hopped on. I double loaded it. It's got blue and white. And this is where I'd rather mix my paint so that I get a good variety. I don't want a solid ocean. The ocean's not solid. It's a bunch of different variations in blues and greens. And depending on the sunset, it could be pinks and purples and yellows and oranges, right? So I'm gonna grab a little bit of blue and a little bit of white. Now my brush is pretty wet. If I have, let me just grab a new brush that's not wet already, okay? If I have a dry brush and I go to paint with a dry brush, just listen, can you hear it? I get this a lot with new painters, and they're trying so hard and it's not fun because it's making these yucky spots like this. This is just really, honestly, a lack of water on the brush. So if I dip in the water, I wipe on the back side, I grab the paint like a little scoop. It's just a little dollop of paint. And then I glide. See how much nicer that is? And how it can just glide across the whole thing. I just dip, wipe, grab. I can grab a little of that, and then I can go. Okay? And if you're gonna blend from light to dark, always go like a little farther than you wanna go, and you go over that. That's where you start your next layer of lightness or darkness. You go over it, okay? All right, so back down here, look, right here. Here's a great, I love the colors here, so I wouldn't really wanna change it, but if I want to blend that in, I'm gonna just get wet water on my brush. I'm just brushing off the back side. I'm gonna go whoop, straight over. I went one direction here and then flipped to the back of my brush and came back, and it's totally blended in. See that? Okay. Now, let's say this is kind of dry. Now, this is where some people have a hard time. Hi, Nancy. I thought it was because I'm a cheap painter and I don't want to waste my paint. Nancy, you got to use the paint. Oh, Peggy, Nancy, hello, hello. Okay, so you got to use the paint. That's hilarious. Yeah, so this is kind of dry. I can go over it and I can start to add some waves. So again, I just got my brush a little bit wet. Now, I might use my brush in a little bit different way than I did here Here my brush was vertical, the bristles, and not horizontal, okay? So let's go with a little bit lighter. We're gonna grab some of that white. Now it's okay if it has a little bit of that blue in it, it's no big deal. But instead of grabbing a big dollop, look, it's very thin. I'm actually probably have too much. So I don't have a big dollop of paint. And here I'm gonna let's lay it a little bit flatter. So remember before I held it upright. Now if I lay it flatter, and I still have too much paint, barely graze the surface. So I'm just kind of, look, my brush in my hand is super loose. A lot of times people have like death grip on their brush. Relax. This should be relaxing. You should be breathing calmly. I, in fact, have music. I forgot. I could put music on. Watch, we can all just have music together. Tell me if it's too loud. But we could just paint nice and calm together. Look at that. Can you hear the music? Dylan said, look, you want music? I could give you music tonight. Is it good? Oh, Dylan doesn't know. He's not listening to me. Okay, so if I'm going to get some waves, I want to still have a little bit of that blue in it. I don't want it to be stark white yet, okay? So if I just go kind of across. Now, there's different types of waves. If you want busy waves and calm waves, we'll kind of do both. But I can just kind of dust across. And now, if this is an ocean, we want to treat it all as one surface, right? We want it to be all one ocean. We don't want it to be divided up into different pieces. I gotta get some of that paint off. So really, it's like no paint, okay? And we can just come across, okay? So we're just kind of dusting the surface. And it just depends on where you want these waves. Is this close to the shore? Close to the shore waves would be a little bit different. Turn it up a little bit. I don't know how to do that. I don't know why this camera popped up. Can I click it? Okay, cool. Hold on. Dylan says turn up the music. Down, up, that one. Okay. Is that too loud? I don't feel like that did anything, y'all. It's not even turning it up. Look, I could go up to 83. It didn't do anything. I hope it didn't do anything for anyone. I made it really loud for everybody. Okay. It's still just as quiet for me, so I didn't know. Okay, so now, if I want to do this by the shore, you know, when it comes to the shore, did I go real loud for a second? Sorry, everyone. On my end, it wasn't changing. Okay, so if I want to do like some close waves to the shore, which we're gonna do kind of in our Fiji painting, this will be good practice for that. I'm just gonna kind of wiggle my brush. Now, I want a little bit of paint, not a lot. I'm just gonna kind of wiggle my brush because it kind of gets stuck. The white foamy bits get stuck in the cracks, right? In the sand. And we can just kind of zigzag in here. Now you can always use a smaller brush if you want. You could use like a 5/8 brush or something else. You don't really need to. We're just gonna kind of up and down, and see, I just kind of turn my brush. This is where my terrible shaky syndrome I have comes in very handy. So we could just kind of wiggle and get some ripples in our water out here. So you can see I'm literally just tapping the surface. Super calm, totally peaceful. Now, if I lay my brush flatter, which I love, I get these nice little bits that are thicker like this. If I don't, I get these skinnier bits. I love these because they look like little waves kind of rolling over, right? So if I want some waves to roll over out in the water, I would do something more like this, where I can lay my brush a little bit flatter, right? But I want to treat the whole surface as one. It should come from, you know, the wave dies off, but the waves are going to kind of come at each other for the most part, right? Did I mess something up? Dylan's just going to fix your sound for you, everyone. So this is kind of how I get waves. Now, there's a bazillion ways. Any artist is going to do it different. No two artists are going to do the same. You're going to play with it. You're going to see what works best for you, what brush you like best. I love this 1.5 inch brush. I have them from all different. This is the Addie's brand. These are my favorite set of brushes. They're on my website if you go to craveartclub.com/supplies. They're in our Amazon store if Amazon's not sold out. They've been sold out of everything on my page. But give it a check. They're really good brushes. They're like 15 bucks, I think, and you get a decent amount of brushes. So, and they're great quality. I've had them for a year now, and they've not lost their shape one bit. And they're just really great. So now if I want more of this like, kind of like speckled sort of, I can see the canvas sort of vibe. I really have very little paint on my brush, and I can just kind of scratch across, and I can get that stuff going on. Little frothy bits, right? Now, let's say we come back up here. Is this helpful to anybody? Let me know in the comments if this was helpful to you. Let's say I want to blend this for more of a sky, okay? They're separate things. We're not doing a full painting tonight. We're learning some blending tips, tricks, and techniques, and hopefully someone will find them helpful. Oops, I forgot to get water on my brush. I already have my glob of paint. I'm gonna just dip in my water still, and then I'm gonna wipe off the backside. No big deal, okay? Let's throw some white down here. See, all I could say is like, oh, I didn't like that. It looks ridiculous, I don't want it. So now I'm gonna paint over it, and we're gonna blend into a lighter color. Okay, you saw how it was dark. Now I don't like it. I gotta redo it. I'm frustrated. I'm gonna change it. I'm not really, but that's the mindset we can get into sometimes. So now I have way little blue and a lot more white. Notice I'm starting a bit up here, and I'm gonna blend down. Need a little more paint. See, it was scratchy, so I knew right away. Get a little more paint. White, blue. I'm gonna start up above and kind of see what it's like. Okay, so now we're getting similar color all throughout. And see how I'm going all the way down? Got a cool streak of green in there. This is what's great about acrylic paint, is that you can just go over it. Sorry, my camera's getting a little buggy. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab a little more blue and a little less white, and we're gonna take the darker down into the lighter, okay? Just grab some blue. And there we go. So now I just have the blue, a little white, what was on there already. And notice how I go side to side all the way. Now, if I want like a cloud to come in here, and I want it to be more of a wispy sort of cloud, okay? Let's wipe off our brush. This might be a little bit wet for a cloud still, but we'll see. The problem is a lot of times we get it to where we like it. See how this says sky compared to this, because it's a lot more light blue and free, right? The problem is a lot of times we start trying to put things on the surface when either the background is too dry or it's still too wet. So the only way you can kind of like start to learn and figure that out is practice and keep doing it. Oh, good. How do I spell the name of the brushes? It's ADI''X. If you go to craveartclub.com/supplies, we have a thing that says acrylic. Might even be one for brushes, but if you just click on that link, it'll be right there, and you just click and you can put it in your cart. Perfect. So let's say I want a cloud. This is nice and kind of wet still, but the only way you're gonna figure this out is if you practice and you kind of see what happens when it's really wet, see what happens when it's more dry. Okay, so right now, if I want just a very mild cloud to kind of happen, right? I would want the paint more wet. If I want a really white puffy cloud that's just very intense, I need a dry background. So if I don't want anything super intense, I'm gonna need it to be a little bit more wet, like this is. Now, if I curve my brush, I can get curvy, puffy clouds. And you guys, literally, I wanna hold everyone's hand because you just hold it so light. You barely touch the surface, okay? And you just kind of relax. Just relax, it's paint. You screw it up, you paint over it, who cares? It's practice, right? We don't have to worry about it so much. I think we all worry like that we're gonna mess it up. Who cares? Who cares if we mess it up? I mess up a lot of things. I've been painting forever and I mess up things all the time, y'all. And really, that's how we learn. In fact, one of my kiddos, Finn, he was doing some of my social posts the other day. So you'll start to see we're gonna have some cool social posts coming up, and Finn's been making them. And Boston was helping him with some quotes, and they were like, what if we say something like, what was your quote about mistakes? Mistakes are opportunities, or mistakes aren't failures, or when you fail, you succeed, or something like that, right? Because
Mistakes are the key to success.
Mistakes are the key to success. That's how we learn. Don't worry. If you mess up a whole canvas, use it as a learning experience. Oh, I can mess it up. That's my strong point. Well, see, that's good because that's how you learn. And as long as you're okay with it, right? We got to be okay with it. So this one's pretty wet. I might want to hold off on doing this a little bit longer because as you can see, if I press hard, this is all just going to blend in. See that? Now, if you want just a wispy look, then this is what you want. You just want to barely touch it. But if I want those pops of white, I would have to let it dry a bit. So now, if we want these like streaky clouds, this might be dry enough over here. I can come across with some wispy clouds. Kind of like we did in the water. I'm laying it down, but I'm making these a little bit less linear and a little more wide, right? And, you know, some spots will have highlights from the sun glistening through them. Some won't. Now I can also take a smaller brush and I can get a whole different feel for a cloud, right? So it just depends on what kind of a look you want. That's really wet up there, but I can grab some of this. Look, I can grab some of this blue and let's put it in here. Let's blend it into this. Okay. It's really just like super, super light. If I press hard on this, it's gonna blend it all. I will lose all of that cool texture, right? If I don't have enough water, it won't blend. If I don't have enough paint, Nancy, then you ain't gonna have paint on canvas. The whole point is the paint, right? I said Nancy because Nancy said, I thought I was just cheap because I wasn't having enough paint. So let's grab a little brush, okay? So I'm gonna grab like a smaller brush and I'm gonna put, now here's the thing. Let me grab a smaller brush and I'll make it dry and we'll show you back on the water. This is dried up now. Now my surface is dry. What happens if I just go in with white and I'm gonna, instead of getting this nice blendy look, because remember I did this while it was still a little wet. If I go in now with white on a dry canvas and I try to make these lines, they're all gonna sit on top, okay? And especially if I'm using a smaller brush, so they're all just gonna sit on top. And then you're gonna end up with like, usually people are like, oh, I want a wave. There's a wave. Something like that. And you get these real thick lines. That's what I see a lot. You have too much paint on the brush. Your canvas is too dry. And you're smushing your brush down too much. Now, want to see a cool thing? Some of you who paint with me know this is possible. Let me grab this. Okay. You can grab a clean brush and some water. And if my canvas was dry underneath, ooh, I need a paper towel. Hey babe, could you bring me a paper towel, please? He's got his headphones in. He might not hear me. But if the canvas was dry and my paint was wet and I had a paper towel, I could, tearing up my paper towel, it's fine. He's listening to music. I could erase. Thank you, love. Here you go. Thanks. So I could erase. I could even dip in the water and wipe some of that off. Now be careful when you do that. You don't want to wash off too much of your paint. That's how you erase paint, which is awesome. Okay, what looks good, Nancy? She says, ew, those look good. Okay, so I wouldn't want to do that. I like having this kind of like medium tone to my waves, right? And I got that by doing this while they were wet. So they kind of blended a bit together. Also, you could mix the color and get a lighter blue and blue-green and mix over here and then put that color on. I just find it easier when it's kind of a little bit around the tacky stage to get this sort of look. Then I could pump these up with a little bit of like white, too much white, almost where it feels like there's literally nothing on your brush, okay? And I could go in and find like a cool wave here and just hit the top edge of some of this so that it looks a little foamy and like it's, now I've created the depth where this is gonna be in a shadow, right? So I can get a little foam on these waves. So when you work with acrylic paint and watercolor and anything really, it's a lot about layers. Today, Finn did the most cool picture of a teddy bear in Procreate, and it was all about layers. And I mean, he had probably almost 20 layers in the end, but it's important to have those layers because that's what's gonna create your depth in a painting. So you go in and then you put these bright whites on. Don't just go streaking through and go like, I got water with a bunch of lines. Go in and pick where you want that water. Now that's too much paint. Pick where you want those waves. Pick where you want it to go. And it needs a purpose, right? So now we can get some waves up in here. And this can have some fun. Yeah, fun life starting to come to it. But you have to treat the whole painting as one painting. Oh, the clouds. Thanks, man. Okay. Ew, those look good. Yeah, so I'm gonna come back to those clouds when those dry up just a little bit more. We'll add a little bit of fun to them and zhuzh them up a little bit. So you just wanna kind of make sure that this line, see how I crossed the center? Like if this is my center, see how this line crossed the center and this one here crossed the other direction of center? So it gives the illusion that they're all going together. It doesn't have to be a solid line across, but you need some to cross beyond the center line so that your ocean feels like it's one ocean and not a divided ocean. There's gotta be some like metaphor and all that. So yeah, and then if you want some of this up by the shore, too much paint. Look, okay, seriously, you guys, this is how much paint I have on my brush. It's like nothing. It's too much. It's probably like 70% too much. So I'm wiping it off on my paper towel. Now I have a better amount. That's still probably a lot, but I'm gonna use the back side. So I can come in here and I can get some brighter whites to kind of make this pop, okay? So when you're creating the base of your ocean or your sky or a flower or whatever it is that you want to have as a base and you want it blended, there's different techniques for everything, but if you're wanting the blended look, you can get that and then add these layers on top, okay? The key is the water and the amount of paint. Let's come back up here to the clouds. I think the clouds are gonna be too wet still. I can do it down here. We'll do another cloud down here, just for fun. Now, this is my 5/8 brush. I love using a 5/8 brush for clouds, and I kind of use the bottom corner. And I just kind of curve or I gotta hold it this way. And I just kind of curve in. Now, if you had this nice blended background you've got, and then you want these puffy clouds, I get the bright white on those edges. Okay, this is still blending. I've got the bright white on those edges. I'm gonna wipe off some of the paint on here, and then I'm gonna blend this into my sky a little bit in curves. So I'm circling like a cloud because this is a puffy cloud. So I'm trying to think, okay, I'm a cloud, I'm puffy, I'm calm, I'm in the sky, I'm not stressed out like a human, just a cloud on a beautiful summer or spring day. So I wiped off, if you noticed, I put the white paint on and then I wiped off my brush. I really wiped off my brush. And I took whatever paint was at the bottom. Don't grab from the top because you want that to stay bright white. I grabbed from the bottom and I just pulled, by doing curves, some of that paint a little bit lower, okay? So just like that. And then your cloud takes shape. So that's how you could get a cool cloud blended. See it blended from the brights to the darkers But by just putting that little bit on, okay, now let's say this is pretty dry. Let's say I want another one in front of that. Is this cloud thing helping at all? I want another one in front of that. I want it to be in front, so I want it to be bright again at the top, and I'm again doing the curves. I want to make sure I leave some of this medium blue between the two clouds, because that's what's gonna give the contrast. The darker against the brighter is gonna give that contrast, which is gonna make this cloud appear to be in front of the other cloud. And in a cloud, not all parts at the top are bright white. There's some spots where they go darker, less dense, whatever. Okay, I've got the beginning part of my cloud. Now I'm gonna wipe off. Oops, I forgot to go to the back side of the cloud. We're gonna put a little bit over here too, okay? We're gonna wipe off the brush. Now I'm gonna use what paint is on here to blend down. So I wipe my brush off. I'm using this corner of my brush, and I'm just doing those circles. And you kind of do have to work fast because this paint dries real fast, and you do want it to kind of blend in. Now normally I say grab a lot of water. With my cloud, I like seeing that texture. So I might not want so much water. I'll show you the difference. I'll do one with more water and one without. Okay, so now you can see how those clouds kind of look. One's in front of the other. This contrast is super important, that you keep it right up on the edge and blend down, okay? Now, if I had more water on my brush and I grab the white, it's gonna be thinner. All my clouds are better if I go to the left. Oops! Let me just make a big old mistake. Again, I just used clean water and wiped that up. No big deal. My clouds are better if I go to the left, so you'll usually see when I paint, my clouds all go to the left. I try to get them to go to the right, but my hand doesn't like it. So now, if I have a wetter brush, remember this was a drier brush, I'm gonna have a more wet brush, like we talked about with the background. I don't want it dripping, but now if I have a more wet brush, notice what'll happen. It'll take off that paint. Just like when we erase, because I have the dry surface down here, I have the wet surface up top, it starts to remove more of that paint, which is fine. It just depends on what kind of a look you want. But see, I like this look. For me, I prefer that. Because then this starts to become a lot of one color, which is still pretty, it's still fine. But if you do get it more wet here, that's what's gonna start happening. And you're gonna kind of be playing with, I don't know, just really thin like paint. And then what I'd have to do, because it blended so much, then I would go in and I would add the brighter tones in it a little bit at the end. So it just depends, it's totally up to you. I'm gonna try to hold this closer to the camera. Okay? So you can see, this was the more wet brush, and you can see how it makes this outside edge much more harsh and bright white, and then in here it blended pretty smooth because I used all the water. And that's what we were trying to achieve with the background of the sky or the background of the water, was to get it much more smooth. But for my cloud here, I wanted it to be more texturized so I could get a lot more of the contrast between the blues peeking through and see the canvas texture a bit, and have that white still kind of lower down and blending in and getting all that variation. Whereas this doesn't have as much variation. It's kind of like medium blue and white. And this I have white, I've got a little bit lighter whites, I've got the medium blues, I've got all the different bits kind of peeking through. So that's the difference. This cloud was done while the canvas was still wet, and I was putting wet paint on wet canvas. Same over here, wet paint on a wet canvas. This was dry, a fairly dry brush on dry canvas, and this was a wetter paint on dry canvas. So wet on wet, wet on wet, dry on dry, wet on dry. So you can see, like, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there's different reasons for each one. I would use this technique with mountains because I like to see that drag sort of look. So I do this with mountains a lot while it's still a little tacky. I do wet on wet, but more so when I'm trying to blend backgrounds and get things smooth. And I definitely use this mostly for my clouds or anything like that I want. Now, if we go down to the water, you can get all this variation. Now, I did a little bit of this while it was wet and then put more wet on top. And these bright whites I did once it was dry, I put the whites on. But here we were just looking at how to get different bits of foam, if we turn our brushes or use less paint, what's gonna happen and how it's gonna create waves for us. But the key on that is really to make sure that your waves are coming across and these waves are coming across so that this all goes together. You don't wanna have, let's get a little, always good to see both bits, right? Let's get a little more blue and white paint. You don't want to have little just short strokes here. I mean, unless you're doing impressionistic for some sort of like, I don't know, Monet sort of painting or Renoir or somewhat, you know, like this is, unless you love this little hashy kind of look, which is fine if you do, if that's what you're going for, by all means, do a bunch of little lines. If that's not what you're going for and you're going for more of the blended thing, then you kind of want to make sure your lines are a little longer and they come all the way across. When you do lines like this, they're usually more like hills. They feel a little bit more hill-like, not as much like the ocean. So if you grab a picture of the ocean and just look at it and be like, where do those lines happen? How does that work? Right? Just look at it. I look at pictures all the time. But you don't want to treat one side and then come over here and treat a side and then come over here and treat a side, right? Because then it's like the ocean didn't get created all together. I just always find like it's easier to make it flow if you kind of work it all together. Rather than picking, I'm going to pick this spot and kind of do something, then I'm going to pick this spot and kind of add and skip all around. And then in the end, you're like, why does it look like I skipped all around, right? So the key would be to not skip so much. Let's see if I can get any of this off. In fact, it was pretty dry when I put it on. I mean, the background was totally dry, but the paint I put on was pretty dry. Let's see how much I could get off. This is a baby wipe. Let's see if I could get any off for fun. Look at that. I'm pulling up some of the blue paint, so you do have to be pretty careful. But I could get some of it off. It's not the best, but it's fine. So remember, that's a good trick. And these are the best baby wipes to get acrylic paint out of your clothes right away, or your house, or anything else. So I would just recommend, if you are going to try blending, I'm going to cover over the ocean now. So for anyone who didn't catch the beginning, you'll be able to see what happens. Or you could go back and watch the beginning. It was all about blending, how to blend if you're getting clouds, how to blend for skies and oceans. Got a wet brush, wipe off the back. You want a fair amount of water. You also need paint. So I've got to put a little on the old palette over here. I'm just using tinfoil as my palette because it's easy and I like it. This is awesome. Hopefully I practiced, so I'm ready for the Fiji painting. Yay! That was my downfall. Making sections. Yes, making sections is tough. Think about like when you go to the beach. I always have to think about being at the place. Think about going to the beach. Think about when you're there. Do you see it in sections? You don't. You just look out and you see this vast ocean that's so beautiful. And it goes all the way across. And you just can enjoy the beauty all the way across. So why not paint it all the way across, right? So quick back, what we do, we just use enough water. See, and now if I didn't like that, look at this. I can just paint over it. I don't have to be worried that it's like, oh no, it wasn't perfect. I'm never gonna be able to do this. No, give yourself grace. Go over it, side to side, blend, blend, blend. Okay, and I'm not also, this is another thing I see, believe it or not, people who are like, I'm gonna paint my ocean. It looks like she just did a blue background. Okay, so let's just get it in there. Now this is for a different style of painting altogether, y'all. But I'm just gonna put blue in. There we go. I got blue. Now why doesn't it look like an ocean? Well, because the ocean doesn't I'd say grow, but it's just there. It doesn't sit there. I need those wipes. What are they again? They're wet ones. You can get them at Target or Amazon or anywhere, but they're like in the, by the beauty supply stuff with the little travel kit stuff. They have these over there by like the travel size, toiletries or whatever. Wet ones. Red Pack. Red Pack is the key. I worked on a couple TV shows and we tried out a whole bunch of wipies, and the best ones were the Red Pack. I mean, they make blue, they make green, they make yellow. The Red Pack. Get the Red Pack. Okay? So if I get a streak, or if I get a brush mark, I don't like this. I can't even get a brush mark because it's so wet or dry, or it's just not whatever. Hold on, let me get a brush mark. All right, so now I don't like that. How do I get rid of it? What did I do? Okay, if I just wipe off my brush, dip in the water, wipe off the back side, water's on the top side, lay my brush down, and go side to side all the way across. What magic just happened? Easy peasy, right? I can just get more water and I can keep on keeping on. Okay, now you don't want to end up having like a puddle. Okay, so I can blend this a lot. I prefer to have a little bit of white showing in mine, but not like a big old giant streak. So maybe I want to put a little white there. Maybe I want a little white in some of those spots, okay? So that I've got variation. I'm just gonna go over it like 1 or 2 times. Now, if you want it to be, that's a big old puddle of water. If you want it to be kind of wiggly, go in and just wiggle your brush. But now see how I'm holding it? Before I was holding it this direction, right? But now I've turned it, holding it a little more flat. I can go in and make some fun little like wave variations in here if I wanted. Okay, so some people like it a little bit more free and a little less smooth. That's fine if that's you. But this was like for if you want blending and you want to know how to blend something, you can blend. Okay, not to say I want to blend all that. I didn't like what I did. I'm literally just wipe off, get a little water, wipe off, and we're gonna just blend it in. And see how quick we work? A lot of times people spend way too much time on the background. That's it. That was mostly with water. You saw all the paint. There's enough paint on there where I cannot see my canvas through it at all, which is great. Then I got a clean brush. Not clean, but dry brush. Dip in the water, wipe the back, done. Cool? Awesome. All right, let me know if that was helpful. If there's anything else you guys want me to do, let me know. But that is how I blend. That is how I blended for the flower up there. That's the other thing. Let's go back to the tabletop real quick. Okay, so with the flower, I don't really have room here, but you notice how we went side to side. Now, I'm just gonna say real quick, let's just say I'm gonna make a sun, but it's gonna be white. I'm just gonna make a circle, okay? Anytime you do anything that is a shape, you want your brush to go in the shape of whatever that thing is. So if I want to do a circle, don't judge my circle, people, okay? It's just gonna be a messy circle for a minute, okay? Notice how I'm filling it in curve shapes. I didn't fill it in like this and just get white in there. I mean, I could, that'd be a cool moon, right? I can dab. If I have a flower petal that kind of goes, let's say, some sort of a petal up here. I want to drag that paint in the direction of the petal, right? I don't want to drag it I don't want to paint my flower petal like this. I want to paint it in the direction of the petal. So whatever you're painting, paint in the direction of that item, okay? So we just put down the paint. So go in the direction of that. Same with those clouds. Same with the ocean. It goes side to side. The ocean does not go up and down. Well, unless you're on a really bad ship with a bunch of rocky water. Then it might go up and down at that point. So see, you could just play with it. Just play with it, okay? This was on wet canvas, so I don't think this is gonna work so well. The sky was still a little wet. It worked all right, but you can see it peeled off the paint because the sky was still not dry, if you could believe that. But look at that. I can just take the damp brush and get rid of it. Ooh, this will be fun if that's a moon. Now I'm just messing around. Yes, what Nancy asked, can you do the moon or sun reflects on the water? I can. Okay, I'll do that. And if you guys want to do the moonlit bay painting, that one is still up for Paint Party Replay, and you'll get the palm trees and the whole thing's pretty cool. So you can always hop onto craveartclub.com, Paint Party Replay. If it's a paint party that we've already done and you saw it and you were like, oh man, I missed it, I wish I could have done it, you can go check out Paint Party Replay and sign up for one of the past ones we've done. They do go away after a little while, but there's like 4 of them up there right now. Okay, so I need to get this to dry real quick, and I'm gonna make these two go together here so that you can get the moon on the water. I'm gonna use my heat gun so that I can get that. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna get the heat gun for a second. Maybe. So yes, Nancy says, can you do, okay, wait, where am I now? Can you do the moon or sun reflects on the water? Yes, I'm going to practice on my mixed media paper. Okay, if you practice on your mixed media paper, here's my tip. If you're trying to blend, make sure you paint the paper white first. Just put down a coat of white on the whole page. If you're blending, if you're trying to do like a landscape or a background, because the mixed media paper is very porous and your paint will be soaking into it and it'll be frustrating for the first couple layers, okay? If you use a canvas, usually they've kind of got like a gesso layer on it so your paint sits on top and it doesn't blend, it doesn't kind of absorb weird. So you just want to make sure that if you're going to try blending in a mixed media pad, I don't want you to get frustrated. So just paint it white first, let it dry completely, and then you'll have a nice like primed surface for you to put your paints on and blend and play around with, okay? Cloud, sky, and ocean are so hard for me. They are hard probably for everybody, so you're not alone. And practice, and try, like I just tried like 4 different techniques on those clouds. And we've only been on now, I don't know how long we've been on. We've been on for a while then. 50 minutes. I did a couple oceans, a sky, a couple sets of clouds, tried a whole bunch of different things. So you can just sit down for an hour and try all the different things, okay? That question was to help you, Peggy, says Nancy, that's cute. Okay. All right, so we're going to get the moon. Let's pretend this is the sky, this is the ocean, okay? We'll put a moon. Let's put a moon here, okay? We're just getting the curve of a moon. It's not gonna be anything spectacular. It's just a shape. I go into more depth on how to do this in the Moonlit Bay painting. So, like I said, if you're interested, check it out, craveartclub.com, and sign up for the Paint Party Replay. Fun. And you could sign up for the Paint Party Replay, get your girlfriends to sign up for it, or kiddos, or whoever, and y'all can paint together. At your leisure. All right, so some sort of a moonish. Now, my water is dry. Let's see what happens when my water is dry. Okay. I'll show you what is gonna happen, and I'm not gonna like it. I'm just telling you right now, okay? It's dry. So I mean, it's okay, but I don't like it because it's dry. So I would just do some sort of a bit like this. Now you'll see it when it's dry. Now if I were to put that in first, I know where we're going with this. So if I were to put that in first, and then I was like, oh, but now I need the reflection of just like light, extra light spillage on the water. So now you see what I'm doing. I'm treating this side like it's one thing. And then I'm treating this side like it's a whole separate thing. And it's okay. But if I want them to come together and my background's already dry, I'm gonna want a few of these lines to come through the middle. See this? See how we can get it to come through that middle? Now they don't all have to. You don't want too many. But again, I'm really light on the canvas. So if it's dried up and you're like, oh great, now I can't do it. It is gonna sit on the surface a bit more. And you're gonna get these harsh white lines. One way to deal with that is to get some blue and white on your brush instead of just white. And kind of go in and add those other tones to the water. So this is adding in some of that blue and white. So if you're like, well, the background already dried up, I gotta start all over. You don't have to start all over, but we just need to then add in the layers. It's not gonna happen naturally, right? So you gotta add in those medium tones to kind of come under those white frothy bits. And then it just looks like you got some more light on the ocean, right? So I could do it like this and just keep adding. And then I could even add some darker bits where it's just more solid blues, right? Probably need to clean off my brush a little bit. But I feel like this is a little harsh maybe. So I'm gonna wanna take some of these darker blues and kind of come in, okay? Come into these water bits. And I can get some darker blues in there. I'm literally like, you guys, there's not a lot of paint on my brush. And I'm barely touching that surface. Right when I see it go down, I kind of lift up my brush a little bit and just dust. Okay? So rather than taking your moon and putting it so far down, you don't have to. You can just make a reflection that's a little less. You could go back and you can pop up some of those areas where you really want it to be nice, bright white maybe. Just have to kind of make sure they're dry. I don't want it to look too much like an ice cream cone. Right now it's like an ice cream cone. Now that I say that, you're all like, oh yeah, you're right, there's an ice cream cone. You could put as much on there as you want, but see how once I start to add too much, it looks a little crazy. I feel like it's just overkill. It's like, oh, you're really trying to highlight that moon. Now that's all I can look at, right? Go back in. I wiped off my brush, grabbing a little blue, grabbing a little white. And you may have to wait until this is a little more dry because you may just start making light blue all over the place. So sometimes you do just have to wait and let it dry up and see what happens, okay? So you get the idea. Is that helpful at all? Nancy says, you make it look so easy. Well, I've been doing it for a while and I kind of know how my brushes and my paints work. And until you really know your supplies, and the big thing, you guys, is the hand, like knowing how hard or how light and relaxed to hold it. So you just dust, just relax, just dust. I don't even dust my house, but I'll dust a canvas all day long. Okay, so that's what we do with that. Now, that's when it was dry, okay? We're gonna blend it out now. We're gonna do it when it's a little bit wetter and see what happens. Not enough water. See that? Not moving, not enough water. Grab some water and magic, right? Grab some paint, grab some water. I need to make a shirt that says grab some paint, grab some water. Hey, thanks for the hearts, friends. If you find any of this helpful and you want to spread the word, I would appreciate it because Facebook only lets people see me if people find me helpful at all and spread the word. So if you sprinkle on your page or in a group or wherever you sprinkle or tell your friends, that would be so lovely. Okay, let's say this is our ocean now. That was a little bit light. Grab a little more blue. All right. I'm gonna have to go soon because I think the husband has dinner ready. But let's say we've got this a little bit more wet on the old canvas, okay? I prefer this a little bit. I could take a little white, a little blue. See where we're at. All right. Got like not a big glob of paint. And again, can you see? I'm holding it very light in my hand. I don't even have these fingers like working. Oh, thanks for all the hearts, loves. And the lights. You guys are awesome. Okay, so it does have to be a little dry. It can't be sopping wet or you'll just blend. But as it's drying, if you're working with it, oh, that was a fun one. Look at that wave. Oh, I love it. So as it's drying, you're putting these in, you're gonna start to get like natural variation, like right here, okay? This is a great example. Remember how I had to, when it was dry, I had to put in the white, I had to put in the medium blues, I had to put in the dark blues. Because I touched this with white on my brush and it touched the wet blue surface, it made all those colors for me in one stroke, right? So you just have to be careful you don't lay it down too hard like I did there, but whatever. So it's nice because it does sort of mix the color on the palette for you, which is great. Okay, so now I haven't even treated my moon yet. I'm gonna just kind of treat my whole ocean a little bit. I don't want to touch that because I love it. I don't know why I love it, but I love it. You might hate it. I like it. Ooh, that's another fun wave. It's like curling in on itself. That's just by bending my brush and letting it hit kind of on a side more so than at the top. Which you'll start to, once you start to get to know, oh, that's looking good, y'all. Once you start to get to know your brush, you'll start to see how to do that. But you gotta use your stuff so you kind of get familiar with it, okay? Now it's not treated as one side, the other side, and a center. I treat it as all one surface, right? Now I can come in under my moon and I can just kind of add a little extra in front of the moon. Not too much. The light still has to hit the top of a wave, right? So I'm still trying to get that wave feel. I just maybe have a little extra in the center portion. Okay. So we're just getting a little bit more. And if your whites are like not blending in, whoops, too much. If your whites aren't bright enough, then you have to let it dry a little bit longer for the bright whites. But I love doing this with the brights at the very end when it is dry, okay? But this just kind of comes down in here. Now if I got a little crazy over here. Oh gosh, I wish I could do those waves, I think is what you said. You could do it. It's practice. Just sit down and say like, I'm not painting a picture. Like I'm not painting a picture, just practicing. Just practicing some waves. And give yourself the grace just to practice. It's important. You know what was so sweet? The other day, we were talking about grace at church. I do church online. And we're talking about grace for a while now at church, but I said, you know, I talk about grace in my paint parties a lot and how people need to give themselves grace. And I didn't know that it was really making a difference until I think Peg said to someone, said to Peg, right, I think, you know, give yourself grace. Don't worry about it. And here we are right now. But give yourself grace. Don't worry about it. Ashley says give yourself grace. So I said that in the church notes, right? And one of the ladies chimed in and said, my daughter learned about grace from doing a painting with you. And I was like, what? This was years ago, you guys. Like, she was little. She had to have been 5 when she did a painting with me. She's probably 11, 12 now. I don't know. But she said, yeah, my daughter learned about Grace from doing a paint party with you, and you should see her art now. Oh my gosh, it touched my little heart. I was so excited. I was like, woo, that made a difference with the little kids. That's awesome. Okay, so see how we just start to get the lines in here? They are a little bit shorter. They're a little bit more in front of the moon. But you just kind of, if you get too much, you go back with a little bit dark. If you don't have enough bright whites, like maybe I want some brighter whites. Now this is pretty dry. I'm out of white on my canvas, but I could go back and be like, oh, this looks like a cool spot. I could just add a little bit more pop of white in there. See that? Now I got it. Because we just add a little bit of that bright white when it's dry. So we got it while it was wet to get all the different tones. Don't touch it hard, because if you touch hard on it, pressing your brush down hard, you'll lose that bright white. And it will just become a medium blue. And you'll just have a line. So really, practice touching the surface very light, maybe a little heavier, and see the difference when you drag your brush, when you press harder or lighter. See the difference when you hold your brush more vertical, more on a 45-degree angle, or laying it down. See what your brush does. And it will be different every time, but you'll start to understand what angle you like to hold your hand out for different things, right? So that's kind of where we're at, friends. I hope that was helpful. I'm gonna go eat dinner now. I think the husband's like, I made dinner an hour ago. So there we go. Did that help? Those are great waves, really rolling and breaking. Yeah, made a little bit of storm. The storm's coming in. All right, guys, let's see. I hope that was helpful. Maybe I'll do another one of these. If you guys have any more questions, you want to know a technique, post it on my page, ask away. I would love to do more techniques with y'all. It's a Monday. We'll call it Technique Monday. Normally it's Technique Tuesday, but that's all right. I think that's it, friends. I hope it was helpful. I really do. And give yourselves grace and give it a try. Paint. If you missed the beginning of this video and you want to learn about blending techniques and how to make a background, go ahead, check it out, go back to the beginning. You catch a replay whenever you want. If you would like to join us in any of our weekend paint parties, this cactus one is the one coming up this weekend. Go to craveartclub.com and we'll get you all hooked up. It's $15 for your entire household. So if you want to be the only one to paint, it's just $15. Not bad. If you got kids, you got your family with you in your house, you just all paint together. So fun. So fun. We have kids doing them. Kids can rock this one. This one's a template. They probably won't use the template. Kids usually go for it. They're like, I'm inhibited. What? Inhibited? I'm not inhibited. I'm not, whatever, it's a big word. I'm not bothered by it. I'm just going to paint it. They're fine with it. So, what is the word I'm thinking of? Let me know later. This live is definitely getting saved. Everything I've been wanting to learn. Oh, yay, good, I'm glad. It was great. Woohoo, bye, Nancy. So, yeah, if you want to sign up, go for it. $15. craveartclub.com. Super fun. We'll have paint party this Saturday night, 5 p.m. in the Pacific time. So adjust for where you're at. But it's really fun, y'all. And a lot of people have said it's really, really helping them, especially through all this COVID time, right? This whole year of crazy we've just had. It's really been helping them find some inner peace and calm. And we just chit-chat and have a good old time in the group. I'm the only one on camera, so it's just like this, y'all. You can be in your jammies, you can be in your unders. I don't really care what you're in, because I don't see you. But I will come somewhat like this. And that's how we do it. It's really fun. All right, God bless you guys. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, friends. Bye.